Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me is Colin Mitchell. We are in the hotel room late Friday night. We went and had a nice dinner, and then came back. Colin passed out for a couple hours. I watched the LSU women's basketball game, and here we are.
We are here.
We are here to talk about North Texas. I realize the TV's still on. Let me turn the volume off here. North Texas basketball, Shriners Children's Charleston Classic. 2 games in. North Texas will play again on Sunday. But we will not be there. We couldn't, use enough of the company dollar.
None of that. Can't drive there on a working day.
Yes, that's true.
Drive back.
That's true. Say. That's true. Colin's got to get back to work, the real world. But North Texas, we'll talk about our takeaways, our thoughts. Obviously, 2 close losses to 2 good basketball teams in St Johns and LSU. St Johns on Thursday. We did a quick recap of that, I think, afterwards.
We did not.
We didn't end up doing that?
No.
Okay. But yeah, 1-point loss there. Then LSU, 4-point loss, 66-62 this morning. Where do we start? I think overall, if we just start big picture-wise, it is a disappointing week because I said going in, I was like, all right, either you beat St. John's and that's the 1 and 2 scenario where if you beat St. John's and you lose the next 2, then I'm okay. But if you lose St. John's, I want you to win the next 2 games.
Yeah.
And they were unable to do that, obviously, against an LSU team that is not gonna finish in the top 10 in the SEC most likely.
Right.
Most likely they're gonna be in the 11 to 14 range. This is a team that's not gonna make the tournament in LSU. Maybe they make the NIT, but this was a team last year. We saw North Texas beat Wisconsin and Oklahoma State and so on and so forth in the postseason, but we're unable to do it here.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind, you just mentioned it was the postseason last year where they beat those teams. This team notoriously starts very slow. Yeah. Last year, I'm pretty sure we were all panicking about Southern Nazarene.
Yes, we were.
And then they went ahead.
Same areas as well.
And they went ahead and won the NIT at the end of the season. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. 2, I would hope that the offense doesn't stay as stagnant as it has been. I think remember what they shot against St. John's, but they were 31.7% against LSU. That's not going to cut it most games, and I don't think it's the mean of what they're going to do this season. And you kept both games close. Yeah. You had the shot to win it against St. John's, and you didn't score the last 4 minutes against LSU. So you kept it close against both teams. And LSU, not for nothing, also kept it close against Dayton, who also beat St. John's.
Yes.
So,
those 4 teams are very much in the same tier to me.
Right.
St. John's, Dayton, LSU, North Texas.
And that's good because they're good teams.
But North Texas is the one that ends up 0-2 out of those 4.
Right. Exactly. And I think that that's something that when we all look at it, we're going to be pretty upset. Obviously, Ross during the press conference and the players didn't look all too happy, and I think LSU was kind of the one that got away, but. I think there is positivity to take away from it because they still competed with these 2 teams despite playing not good basketball.
Yeah, I thought North Texas, I think I told you in the first half against LSU and into the second, I was like, North Texas is not playing well. Yeah. And I thought North Texas generated a lot of open threes. LSU gives up a lot of open threes, but if LSU shoots the ball, I understand they finished the game 12 of 32 from 3, which... that's 37%. That's a fine percentage.
Right.
The looks they had warranted you shooting over 40%. I thought the looks that they got were clean looks for the most part. And especially in the first half before LSU kind of made their adjustments, that's where you needed to separate yourself and be like, hey, we're here. We're making open threes. We're ready to play because the defense was fine. But when you play a defense that gives you that many threes, lets you take 32 of them, you got to knock them down.
Yeah.
That's literally what the game plan is giving you, and you were unable to do it. They just packed the paint. Aaron Scott had no space. Robert Allen had a little bit of space. But for the most part, they really did a good job. LSU did packing it in and making North Texas shoot. So I agree with you. I think we'll talk about the offense a little bit more. I do want to stay on your point, though, of this is the early part of the season. I think every single year – we've talked about it before. The year North Texas went on to, 20? I get the years confused. The year they went on to win, to beat Purdue in the NCAA tournament, they started off the year, was that the 5-6 season?
Where that was the season. Record? Yeah, that was the season where they didn't get the bye.
Yeah. So they have had notorious. And even if you go back to, I think, 2019, lose to Dayton and lose to VCU.
Yeah.
Like, they have lost early season games continuously. I remember the Buffalo loss was a big deal a couple years ago as well.
Yeah.
So all of this is to say, this is a program that wants to get over that hurdle. And I did think that the win over Northern Iowa was notable in terms of that was a top 100 win. So that's a good, solid home win. But, you know, you do want to beat LSU in this situation where LSU is clearly a team on the rebuild, clearly a team that's not making the NCAA tournament.
Right.
You want to win that game. You want to take what you did in the NIT championship and carry it over to this year. My rebuttal to that is, like you said, that's the end of the season. And North Texas has very much been an end-of-season team under Grant McCassin and Ross Hodge. But B, this team at this moment does not have the offensive individuals to win games late. And that's something that usually takes time for teams for these North Texas teams to figure out. And I do think they'll figure it out, but it's going to take them some time.
I mean, yeah, you lost the guy. You lost Tyler Perry.
Yeah, you
right?
go from Javion Hammond to Tyler Perry, and now it's...
Who? Is it Aaron? Is it Jason Edwards?
Yeah.
Is it Ruben? And that'll eventually work itself out in games. I think we saw that it was going to be Aaron in the first game against St. John's, and then earlier today it was definitely Jason Edwards who turned it on. And, you know, he misses some layups like everyone did. We can talk about that here in a bit. But like you said, you don't have the go-to guy. Aaron Scott is definitely your best player, but you don't have the go-to guy at end-of-game situations yet.
I'll tell you what, I think also the defense will get even better than what it is. Like, I think this team is going to be a real handful. Coming out of the St. John's game, especially, like the LSU game is way more disappointing than the St. John's game.
Oh, yeah.
St. John's game, North Texas took St. John's best shot, and it looked like they were, like, going to beat them. And obviously you don't end up getting the win, but I had a friend text me, oh, yeah, this is the third best team in the American. Like,
I mean, if you look at how St. John's played Dayton today, I think Dayton won 88-81. St. John's put up 53 points yesterday.
Yeah.
So almost a 30-point differential.
Defensively, this team is really, really, really good, and I think they can get even better when they figure out, like, kind of their stuff at the 5 with Sissoko and whatnot. But this is, even with these two losses, I think there is a very, very strong case to make that North Texas the third best team in the American still at this moment. And that was our goals coming into the season. Obviously, who knows where we'll be in 3 months. I'm not saying they are going to definitely finish third.
Yeah.
Who knows? But nothing in this tournament, despite losing those 2 games, has made me waver off of the goals of this season of everything. And you have to remember, this is, whether we like it or not, and yes, coming off an NIT championship, you want the next step. Expecting the next step to me is unrealistic when you consider an entire wholesale coaching change.
Yeah.
You lose your end-of-game player, which at North Texas specifically, the end-of-game player is the reason you had success over the past 4 years. Javion Hamlet to Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
That's what you're having to figure out. You're having to figure out all of this stuff on the fly. And I just think it's kind of unfair to be like, oh, they lose to LSU and they lose to St. John's. That's unacceptable because you have to take a step forward every single season. Next year, okay, yes. But this year, game 4 of the season, like I'm not gonna press the panic button because LSU beat them when LSU is, I think, one of the oldest teams in the country. You can say it doesn't matter because they've lost to Nickel State, but like Will Baker 5th year, Jordan Wright 5th year, like I can go down a list of 5th year players on this team. They have 4 underclassmen on their whole roster, sophomores and freshmen. So I just think they're in different spots, and this is a game Aaron Scott's going to learn a lot from. I thought Ruben had a much better game, even though he didn't shoot the ball great. I thought he had a much better game. You know, Noland will learn a lot. Sissoko will learn a lot. But yeah, overall, I don't have sweeping takeaways. To like, oh no, this is something that's majorly wrong. You could say the offense, but I think the offense is going to be fine, honestly. Yeah. I trust Bugs. I trust Edwards. I trust Ruben and even Nolan.
Yeah, and the misses weren't misses where it's like, oh, like they couldn't get looks at all. Like, we already talked about the 3-point looks. They had a lot of also missed layups.
God,
that's just going to, like, if you smoke a layup, that's not a problem really with the player at this level, right? It's going to be a problem of just getting out of your own head, it seems like, at that point. I mean, like, Aaron Scott missing layups, like Ruben Jones missing layups, Jason Edwards missing layups, Sissoko with his hook shot, and I guess that's we can talk about the bigs here in a second, but the layups are going to come. Like, this team's a 3-point shooting team. It always has been, but they shouldn't also, they're not going to be averaging
Are you looking for points in the paint?
Points in the paint, yeah.
I thought it was up here. 10.
10 points. Like, that's going to be better throughout the year. And they still have a game Sunday. I don't know who they're going to play. I don't know when Wake Forest and Towson play.
Towson lost to Wake. I believe LSU's playing Wake, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Okay. So if they play Towson, Towson's not an awful team. I mean, they're top 150 at least. So they are the worst team in the field. But it's also not a gimme. And like Ross said during the press conference, they're not playing D2 schools. They're not playing these really low D1 schools either. Yeah. So I think that's positive. Now, I do want to talk about and get your thoughts on the big situation. Robert Allen had a really great game, but he played a lot of minutes, probably more than he's used to, at a position that's probably not the position he played in the SEC.
Yeah.
And he fouled out, basically, kind of because of it. But he was everywhere today. Sissoko has been a problem.
Yeah. Sissoko, coming off the NIT game, we kind of just assumed, or the NIT run, we kind of just assumed you'll plug him in and he's going to be that same player.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a different team around him. This is not the Tyler Perry team. This is not Kai Huntsberry team. This is not Grant McCaslin team. So this is a different offense they're running. It's different looks. And I think more than anything, though, the defensive side of the ball, he kind of has to come around and figure things out, and which I think he will. It'll just take some time. He's too athletic, too big to give up on at this point, and they need him. Whether they start Robert Allen or not, I don't know. But Robert Allen's, I mean, for being like a 6'9" center that's not like the biggest guy.
He's not big, yeah.
I thought he held his own against Will Baker. I thought he held his own against all of LSU's centers, which is a great sign.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about winning the American, Memphis and FAU have centers as well that will give North Texas fits.
Yeah.
But, it's not, and the rest of the American is not going to torch North Texas on the inside the way that LSU did. Will Baker was, last 2 years at Nevada, was an all-conference player, like scoring 20 points a game, 20 points a game there. So I just look at this as being, that was the one weakness of North Texas. I think we knew coming into this tournament, it's like, hey, how are they going to do at the 5 now against these really good teams that St. Johns and obviously they didn't play Dayton, but like Dayton and LSU, like how are they going to match up? It's tough. They don't have Soriano on the side. They don't have Will Baker. Like, this is not a strength of this team. But I think there are ways to work around it in the American.
And not only that, I think they held their own rebounding. I mean, Robert Allen had 3 offensive boards today.
Yeah.
They 34 rebounds overall, and then I think Soriano only had 10 points. St. John's.
Yeah.
So
they did a great job against Soriano.
So they did as good as they could have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to score more on the inside. So
they just need Aaron to be more efficient, to kind of go to the forward spot. I mean, Aaron has to be. That's why I said I didn't think North Texas played well in this game at all. I thought Aaron Scott was off shooting wise, obviously, 2 of 12. And then I didn't think he defended very well either. Kind of let Derek Fountain get wherever he wanted. So Aaron Scott has hopefully his worst game of the season, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I thought Ruben, while he started off the game pretty well, he had a couple threes, he wasn't able to get to the paint either. So you're settling for a lot of those floaters and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough game. They didn't play well. It's gonna hurt because you want to win, but now it turns into what North Texas has Boise State and Mississippi State on the schedule before conference play. You want to try to get one of those. You got to beat Towson first.
Beat Towson first.
Not a pushover.
It's not a gimme.
I do expect North Texas to come out ready to play and play much better than they played today, but got to beat Towson, and then you want to, hopefully beat. Now Mississippi State, I think, is much better than. Honestly, it might be the best team on North Texas' schedule. Mississippi State beat the brakes off of Arizona State earlier this year, but Boise State, stuff like that. So we'll see. That's what I love about playing good teams early on, is you get to see what this team is actually made of, and
you get the benchmark.
And you get the benchmark. You get to see where they will improve, because now, obviously, it's a new coaching staff, like we said, but there is a track record over the last 5 years of this team steadily improving as the season goes on and taking significant steps forward before conference play. I mean, it doesn't guarantee anything, but I do think it is notable, and it gives me reason to be like, hey, we're not where we were 3 years ago, saying, man, you lost to Buffalo. How can you do that? Like,
well, not only that, I mean, last year, this team, I don't think last year's team gets as close as this year's team does to these two teams. I mean, we saw what happened against St. Mary's. St. John's is probably...
St. Mary's a little different, because they were they are missing like half their team in St. Mary's, to be fair. But yes, I do.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think like if you bring in Southern Nazarene again, I don't think that this year's team makes it a game. You know what I mean?
It was. Yeah, it's. I can't even compare. I'd have to think about that for a minute. But it's compare the two. But it definitely was last year a much slower team.
Yeah.
I think this year's team's playing with better tempo. I think the offensive ball movement's honestly better. It's just they need to figure out the individual part of it because the last couple years
they had the individual part of it.
They figured it out. So I do think Jason Edwards needs the ball a lot. I think he has to get up probably.
I'm actually impressed with him defensively.
He's held. Yeah,
I thought he'd get played off the court at certain times. And I mean, he played 32 minutes today, and I thought defensively he was active, especially against St. Johns. He was in passing lanes, active. Obviously, he's smaller, but I don't think he's a liability.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. Robert Allen was plus 14 in 23 minutes.
Yeah.
That is incredible. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we saw some smaller lineups as well with Aaron Scott at the 5. Yeah. Again, against LSU, that's probably not going to work, but it could work against fill-in-the-blank team from the American, like
minus FAU, and
that's very much a team a lineup that could work. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw that. Aaron will have to play better, like I said, but I think that gives him good spacing. You want to get Ruben in the paint more. He just has to be more aggressive and get downhill and force the issue a little bit more. But I thought it was fine. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember what it was. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I thought John Buggs played pretty well as well. 36 minutes, 4 of 8 from 3, 5, 11 from the field. Great energy, as always. It's just fun watching him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really is.
So shout out to Buggs. Anything else?
I think I'm good.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how the game goes against Towson on Sunday. I don't think we'll have a reaction pod up to that. We'll probably just include that in our next podcast. But football game Saturday, we'll have a reaction podcast up on that as well. And yeah,
no football podcast though.
Because no football preview. So don't want to throw out a half-baked product, even though we recorded one. But
we did record one. It was pretty bad though. I will say it was pretty bad.
We don't want to just throw it out there. So well, that's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Hope North Texas beats Tulsa. If not, then we will
Speaking of football podcast, though, I did have a very, very bad pick'em.
The pick'em will be up in the morning.
Yeah, that was...
Stay tuned. Well, y'all might be listening this morning, or it's 10 o'clock at night when we're recording this. But
I'm probably going to go bald, guys. And unless...
And look at all the hair he has. I don't want to touch it, but...
You can touch it. It's clean.
I'm not touching your hair.
Yeah, it's a lot of hair.
So, he needs a haircut anyways, but it's just going to be gone. It's going to be great.
I mean... You know, we should read off the pick'em for the people who are listening.
No.
No?
That's too...
Okay.
Okay.
No, okay.
No, it'll be on Twitter. Check it out. But yeah, hope you all have a great weekend. We'll be back after the football game, and we'll talk to you all later.